For decades, South Korea was the poster child of economic miracles, a nation that rose from war and poverty to become a high-tech, high-income powerhouse. From global titans like Samsung and Hyundai to the cultural waves of K-pop and K-dramas, South Korea looked like the future. But here in 2025, the warning lights are flashing. Growth is stalling, social pressure is building, and underneath the sleek modern exterior, the foundations are beginning to crack. The miracle didn't just slow down, it's running out of steam. And here's why. Please take a moment to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Let's begin with the demographic time bomb, which is the root of almost every other crisis. South Korea now has the lowest fertility rate in the world, just 0.75 children per woman, far below the replacement rate of 2.1. At this pace, South Korea's population could halve within the next 50 years. Already by 2035, projections suggest that over 1/3 of Koreans will be 65 or older, with the working-age population shrinking by millions. That's not just a future problem. It's already hitting the economy, the military, the education system, and the housing market. And to put this into perspective, South Korea's fertility rate is much lower than other aging societies. Japan, long seen as the global symbol of demographic collapse, still manages a fertility rate around 1.3. China, after years of its one-child policy, sits at 1.0. Even these countries, known for aging populations, aren't experiencing the free fall that Korea is. South Korea's number isn't just low, it's historically unprecedented. No country has ever seen such a rapid decline in births in peacetime. What makes Korea's outlook worse is the lack of cultural flexibility. In China and Japan, alternative family structures and out-of-wedlock births are becoming more common. In Korea, though, only about 2% of births occur outside of marriage, compared to over 40% in much of Europe. So if people aren't getting married, which many aren't, they simply don't have children at all. And even if a young couple wants children, the economic pressure is suffocating. In Korean society, there's an unspoken expectation. Before marriage, you should already own a home. But in a country where housing prices have tripled in the past 20 years, this is an impossible ask. In Seoul, the average apartment now costs over $600,000, while wages have remained stagnant. For most young people, homeownership is completely out of reach without help from their parents. And if you don't own a home, you're seen as unprepared for marriage, and certainly unprepared to raise kids. Now add in the cost of raising children, and the picture gets even worse. Korea isn't just expensive, it's brutally competitive. The moment a child is born, the race begins. You're expected to hire private tutors, send them to after-school cram schools, hagwons, enroll them in extracurriculars like piano, English, math, and coding, because everyone else is doing the same. If you don't, your child will fall behind. It's not optional, it's a survival requirement. Korean parents spend an average of $17,000 per year per child on education alone. Multiply that over 15+ years, and you're easily looking at $300,000 to $400,000 per child, not even counting university tuition, living expenses, or emergencies. And let's be honest, it's not just about money. Parents, especially mothers, are expected to coordinate every detail, from managing tutors to personally overseeing school assignments. The emotional pressure is immense. Children study until midnight. Parents work overtime to afford tutors. Family life becomes a constant race against everyone else. So when the government asks young people, why aren't you having more babies? The answer is simple. Because we're not insane. Most Koreans already feel like they're drowning just trying to live a normal life. Add a child or two, and the financial pressure becomes unbearable. This is why young Koreans are choosing pets over parenthood, apartments over families, and personal freedom over societal pressure. The cost of raising children in Korea isn't just high, it's socially and economically destructive. And what's all this pressure leading to? Economic stagnation. The golden years of double-digit growth are long gone. In 2025, GDP growth is projected at just 0.8%, and the first quarter of the year already saw a 0.2% contraction. That's not a fluke, that's the start of a new normal. South Korea's once dynamic economy is now burdened by aging demographics, slowing productivity, and shrinking domestic demand. And the outlook for the next 10 to 15 years? It's bleak. By 2035, labor shortages will worsen, the elderly dependency ratio will balloon, and government spending on pensions and healthcare will skyrocket. Meanwhile, fewer workers will be left to shoulder the tax burden. The famed chaebols, Samsung, LG, Hyundai, are already shifting investments abroad, eyeing Southeast Asia for younger, cheaper labor. At home, the domestic market is shrinking, consumer sentiment is cautious, and startups are struggling to scale. The economic machine that once powered Korea's rise is running on fumes. To make matters worse, South Korea is deeply exposed to the whims of global trade. With exports accounting for nearly 40% of GDP, the country was always vulnerable to outside shocks. But 2025 has seen a perfect storm. President Trump's return to the White House brought 25% tariffs on Korean steel and aluminum, and whispers of future restrictions on autos and electronics. Meanwhile, China, Seoul's largest trade partner, is dealing with its own slowdown and turning inward to boost domestic production. As a result, South Korea's exports dropped by over 10% year-on-year in January 2025, slamming the country's key industries. Semiconductors, petrochemicals, and shipbuilding all hit hard. And since many of these industries are intertwined with global supply chains, Korea has little control over the external shocks that hit its economy. The world is decoupling, and Korea is stuck in the middle, with no clear strategic partner and no cushion to fall back on. And if all that wasn't enough, political instability has thrown fuel on the fire. In late 2024, President Yoon Suk-yeol stunned the nation by declaring martial law amid nationwide protests over healthcare reforms and economic hardship. That move backfired spectacularly. He was impeached and removed from office. Now, in 2025, Korea is heading into a snap presidential election with no clear frontrunner and deep divisions across society. Investors are hesitant, policymaking has stalled, and the average citizen is tired, frustrated, and anxious about what comes next. Young Koreans in particular feel betrayed. Despite being highly educated, many are stuck in precarious jobs, unable to afford homes or build families. Youth unemployment remains high, and competition for stable jobs, especially in the public sector, is brutal. More and more are choosing to opt out, not marrying, not having kids, not even looking for full-time work, and it's hard to blame them. Then there's the gender divide, which is growing faster than most outsiders realize. South Korea ranks near the bottom of the OECD in gender equality. Women earn less, are promoted less, and are frequently pushed out of the workforce after marriage or childbirth. Maternity leave exists on paper, but in practice, it often comes with quiet retaliation. At the same time, young Korean men feel increasingly alienated. They're forced into 2 years of mandatory military service, while women are not. Many men feel feminism has gone too far and see rising calls for gender equality as a zero-sum attack on them. This has created a toxic cultural backlash, with radical feminist movements on one side and male-centric online communities on the other. The dating scene has collapsed. Trust is eroding. Birth rates are falling even faster because young men and women have stopped cooperating altogether. South Korea isn't just facing a labor shortage, it's facing a deep cultural rift, one that no amount of government subsidies can fix. Even the healthcare system, once a source of national pride, is under serious stress. The crisis came to a head in 2024, when the government announced plans to increase medical school quotas to address long-term doctor shortages. Instead of support, it triggered a national walkout. Tens of thousands of junior doctors left their posts, leading to canceled surgeries, delayed treatments, and overwhelmed emergency rooms. The protest wasn't just about quotas, it revealed deeper issues: overworked staff, lack of rural healthcare, and a broken pipeline for general practitioners. South Korea already has a serious imbalance. Most doctors are clustered in Seoul, while rural areas face dangerous shortages. The few general doctors that remain are often underpaid and burned out, while new graduates chase high-paying urban specialties like plastic surgery and dermatology. The aging crisis only adds pressure. By 2035, over a third of Koreans will be 65 or older, and the system simply isn't ready for that demand. Long-term care, elder support, and chronic disease management are all underdeveloped. Families are expected to pick up the slack, but many can't afford to. And healthcare inequality is widening fast. The wealthy get private treatment, while everyone else waits. This isn't just a medical issue, it's a social stability issue. If the system can't care for the old, support doctors, or provide reliable coverage across the country, faith in public institutions starts to crumble. The miracle economy depended on systems that worked, but as healthcare begins to falter, so does the country's ability to support its own future. South Korea is facing a crisis, not just in one sector but across the board. Demographics, economy, housing, healthcare, gender relations. The systems that powered its rise are now the same systems holding it back. The country is aging faster than it can adapt. Its youth are opting out of adulthood, and its institutions are cracking under the pressure. If nothing changes, if bold reforms aren't made, if the culture doesn't evolve, if structural problems aren't directly confronted, then South Korea won't just slow down. It will shrink, stagnate, and fall into long-term decline. The miracle didn't vanish overnight, but unless the country reimagines how it treats its people, its families, and its future, it may never come back. Not every miracle gets a second chance, and right now South Korea is running out of time. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more future content.